A lot going on in our world today. You know, the regular stuff still going on. Ethnic issues, immigration issues, coronavirus. That's kind of dying out in the news now. You know, it's not really the thing that we're looking at. What I want to talk about today, a myriad of things that have to do with our well-being, even in our communities. I was thinking, and I made this up, I think. You know, a lot of times you think you make up a phrase and then you Google it and you see 100 other people came up with the same phrase. I don't think that's so unbelievable. You can Google your own name, first and last name. Or you put it on Facebook. Google your first and last name in Facebook and you'll be surprised how many people have your name all over the world. But the little phrase I thought I made up was that it's easier to stay bound than it is to do the things that it takes to make you free. You know what I mean? It's easier to complain about things. It's easier to just, you know, look what they did, especially with social media, posting pictures all the time, you know, about how mistreated you are or we are, or what they did to us and all that kind of stuff. From a personal perspective, from an ethnic perspective, from a political perspective, all sides, you know. We're suffering. Black lives do matter. And white lives matter. You know, we got all that. Everybody's tripping, you know. Women's rights. All that stuff, man. But what I'm suggesting to you today, just as individuals, see, when you're looking at a situation from a whole group and trying to mobilize a whole group in unison, the situation is probably not going to clear itself up. Because you got so many people with so many different ideas, so many different beliefs, so many different approaches to handling that situation, it's very difficult to get everybody on the same page going in the same direction. And so you can go into Facebook, you know, and see everybody there with your particular name. But that's really a drop in the bucket to how many people there actually are on planet Earth, okay? And so what I'm suggesting is that each individual simply needs to make themselves well, okay? That's what it boiled down to. That's why I see here, even in America, as it relates to our people, as black folks, what this program is directed to, we have to make a determination as individuals that I'm going to be well. And if you know my story, when Obama became president, I'm like, this brother's got a Harvard education, I had a high school diploma. I went to school to get an associate degree, went to Sinclair College. After getting my my associate degree, I laid out for a quarter, went back to school. 8 years later, I earned my MBA. Okay? But I had to do it. I couldn't complain about other people who have degrees. I couldn't be talking about this person and look at me and forlorn, dejected and all. No, I had to realize the truth. And then I had to act upon it. There's a scripture, there's a religious proverb that says something like, the truth will make you free, okay? And everybody quotes it, everybody embraces it, you know, from one way or another, whether it's from a religious perspective or it's a woke perspective, that the truth will make you free. But as I share with, you know, at that religious proverb, as well the whole concept of being woke, it may be truth, it may be woke, it may be enlightenment, but without action, it's absolutely meaningless. A lady on Facebook, she was talking about, you know, what happened to black people. I think there's a picture of some white folks, a guy on a horse beating a black man, and see what they do to us. If it was a dog, it'd be better than if it was a black man. They don't care. Black folks, we just need to be woke. What? Come on, there's not a black person in this nation that doesn't realize what's been going on. However you want to interpret it, however you want to portray it, however much weight you want to give it, depending on what political party or persuasion you embrace, we know woke isn't knowing what's happening. Shoot, man, a 10-year-old kid knows what's happening. Woke is fixing it. That's what woke is. You show me a black man that comprehends that there is mistreatment of black folks in this nation, or there is institutional racism, or there is some racism or ethnic persecution. I show you, okay, But if you show me a black person who's doing what he needs to do to take himself out of the reach of the racist institutions, out of the reach of the ethnic persecution, out of the reach of the oppression, that is the woke person. If you're sitting there smoking a joint talking about how woke you are because you understand this stuff, if you are still killing yourself, if you are not really progressing forward and upward outside of the oppression, you're not woke. That ain't woke. You're killing yourself. If you out of shape, eating the wrong foods, all overweight, diabetes, high cholesterol, heart issues because of your sedentary lifestyle, you're not woke. Knowing something don't make you woke. The woke is defined by how you respond to what you know. Come on, that's even less, that's not woke just knowing. Shoot, that's dreaming. That's still asleep. That's in REM sleep, okay? That ain't woke. Woke is, I mean, we dream things all the time and wake up in the same boat, man. I could be paralyzed, be sleeping, dreaming I'm running. When I wake up, if I'm still paranoid, and that's what woke is. How am I going to walk again? Woke is, for black people in this nation, how you're not going to be oppressed. Get yourself out of their reach. Education will do it. Your lifestyle will do it, man. Man, it used to be back in the day. I used to, when I was younger, I was like always like 2 points or 1 ticket away from losing my license. Then I'd go for a while without getting a ticket and start to work it down, work my way back up again. Now I got nothing. Policeman gets behind me, runs my plate. It's boring. There's nothing on there. They see me, of course, get behind me, and they just drive off. I'm boring. They ran my plates, ain't nothing there. Also got my military tags. Come on now. You can do things to cushion yourself, to relieve yourself, to move you outside of the reach of that oppressive hand. That's what woke is. Get an education. Get a better job. Quit smoking weed. Quit drinking alcohol. Quit eating the wrong kind of foods. Don't remain sedentary. Do some cardio. Do some exercises. That's what woke is. Woke is the thing that gets you out of the situation you're in. An imbecile can determine that something's wrong. That ain't woke. Woke is you getting yourself out of your mess. But anyway. Whew. All right, so we're going to talk about how to get ourselves out of that mess. Because we have opportunities all the time to get ourselves out of that mess. But again, it is a lot easier just to stay in the situation you're in and not do what it takes to get out. Okay? It takes some work. Man, I went to school for 10 years to get that MBA. Started when I was 50, got it when I was 60. That wasn't easy. I'm telling you, man. I think I was going to bed I was getting to bed every night, 1 in the morning. Because I'm doing homework all the time because I was trying to ensure that I wasn't taking the time away from my family. And specifically my daughter, she was young. I think she was about 4 or when I started, maybe younger than that, 3. Yeah, she was 3 years old when I started school, when Obama became president. So between the age of 3 and 13, I had to make sure that I wasn't neglecting her in my studies, so I would start studying when she went to bed. That was rough. So it wasn't easy. But if you want to get yourself out of where you're at, it's not going to be easy. You just have to be woke, okay? For real, okay? So I'm going to help you now. Okay, now the whole thing about my education, it wasn't just about going to school, although that was a big part of it. The strategy. See, I'm a student of Sun Tzu, as many of you know. I've been a student of Sun Tzu for the past, 45 or more years, maybe 47 years. And since I started practicing the martial art, I was embracing anything that had to do with Asian philosophy, and Sun Tzu was one of those. Lao Tzu as well. Lin Yutang, I don't know if you've ever heard of him. Any Asian philosophers, that was just the kick I was on. So the strategy wasn't the going to school, although that was very important. The strategy was recognizing the times, recognizing the seasons. Okay, that's what we're going to talk about today. I'll tell you what, I want to use, since we're talking Chinese philosophy, let's use China as an example. Okay? China was an extremely oppressed nation. oppressed communist nations. Matter of fact, they're probably the only communist nation on this planet that has successfully maintained their communist ideology and become successful in the modern world. Okay, and to where the people who are even in that communist regime ideology atmosphere are better off now than they had been. They're doing very well. Okay. As a matter of fact, China now is getting ready to surpass the United States in economics. They're getting ready to be the #1 economic player in the world. How'd that happen? Jacked up as they were. Cultural revolution, communist takeover, Mao losing 20 million people in a famine. I mean, their situation was jacked. People, it was a mess. But their nation evolved. But so then the question is, though, as oppressive as they were, because remember Tiananmen Square, that terrible situation they had with the oppressive hand at Tiananmen Square and the people that were killed. Remember that iconic image of that young student standing in front of that tank and he wouldn't move? Yeah, Tiananmen Square and all. I mean, they were a jacked up nation. People were extremely oppressed. Many people were in poverty. They were all wearing the same uniforms. I mean, it was a mess, okay? But how did they transform from that to getting ready to surpass the United States as the economic leader on planet Earth? And right in about 12 to 15 years, they're going to match, if not supersede, the United States in a military, in the strongest, most effective military on this planet. Hard to believe, huh? Well, let me tell you how it's the same strategy set whittled down as black people in this nation. Now, what happened to China was like, we were, especially starting in the Bush administration, we were really focused on China in a real negative way, okay? The previous presidents, were trying to open doors, open pathways to China, recognize them, and even Nixon flew to China. I think it was in 1972, first president to do that. Because we recognize that we'd rather have China as a buddy since we got Russia over here. We don't want China and Russia being on the same page. And so China and Russia, although they were both communist nations, they had issues with each other. Now, personally, I believe because you got Russia over here, they may be communists, but they're white guys. Black folks, we know how that is here in the U.S. And see, then you got the Chinese over here, the communists, they were yellow guys, okay? And so you'd even find times that the Russians would try to use the Chinese, for their labor in Siberia. Since you got all those Chinese, why don't you send them over here for some cheap labor? Mao was not having that, okay? So this conflict here, conflict there, Russia being on the border of a vast majority of China, there were conflicts between these two communist nations. The United States wisely recognized that we needed to make friends with the Chinese because we can't hardly trust the Russians. It's like these white guys don't trust each other. Everybody wants to make nice with these yellow guys over here. So we've been cool with China for a long time. Difficult as it may seem. I know we fought them in Vietnam, had the issue, in Korea and all. But those are more like political games that superpowers can be drug into. Like Korea basically manipulated. We're getting off too much on manipulated the superpowers into even the Korean situation. But the point is, you have China economically jacked up, but in a matter of like 20 years, they're almost the #1 economic economy in the world. Okay, I mean, come on, you got all them people. If you find a way to use those people in the right way instead of persecuting them, man, those are purchasers. Those are people that are feeding into your economy. And I dare say, a little deviation, if the United States would stop trying to dissuade all these immigrants from coming to the nation and find a way to utilize them in a positive way, we might be able to subvert or hold back some of the progress or the competition that China is putting us in. But anyway, how'd China get so great economically? President Bush Jr. really focused on China negatively. We're going to watch them. We're going to watch you guys, right? And then all of a sudden 9/11 happened. 20 years, focused on the Middle East, Afghanistan, Iraq, even Iran, all the areas over there, we're focused over there. We're all, you know, we all are, we all were from day one. Eyes were off China. China just kept on, sort of like that story with the tortoise and the hare. China just kept doing what they needed to do. China, one of the benefits of such a oppressive regime like China is that you can make a 50-year plan, you can make a 30-year plan, you can make a 20-year plan and walk it out. In our nation, as we've seen, you know, you have a president in there that tries to make changes, and he makes all these changes, and the next president comes in and just cancels all the changes that the previous president made. So there's never really a positive long-term plan that's being walked out. You know they say make a 5-year plan, make a 10-year plan, make a 20-year plan. You know, like Franklin Planner and all those guys. Well, we can't do that as a nation because you have an administration that'll walk in there and just unravel everything the previous one did. Not China. They'll have a 20-year plan. They'll have a 30-year plan. China's plan was to be #1 in economics in the world as well militarily. And so while all eyes were off of China, China just began undercover, secretly, quietly improving themselves. Making all the changes, making all the moves, and to where they are today. Still our friends, they really are. And so what's very interesting, and I know that I might take flack for this, even for China, because China was very oppressive. You know, Cultural Revolution took all the smart people, all the experts, college professors, and everybody and just re-educated them. And put the peasants in charge. And things just messed up as they had their little famine. 20 million people died. They had a lot of mess, a lot of oppression, a lot of negativity in that nation. But now they're like the #1 economic power in the world, right beneath the United States right now. So was all that stuff necessary? I mean, maybe it was. Does the end justify the means? If you get cancer, are you going to take a very evasive remedy like chemo that's going to be very harmful to your body, but at least if it's done properly, you'll survive and be well? So I don't know if I can really condemn China for even their history. I mean, come on, look at our history. How many black folks were killed in the slave trade? George Floyd wasn't too long ago, and that stuff is still going on. Institutional racism, we want to deny that it's a thing, but that's not true. It is a thing. So it's very hard to condemn other nations when we have our own ills, you know, toward an entire group and groups of people. So China got well while nobody was looking. That's the point. So as I shared my education, what did I do? It wasn't the education so much, it was the fact that Obama was president. I was impressed. I decided to change, but the point is that everybody was hating on Obama, half the nation, calling him names. The other half was loving Obama. So there was a battle between half of America for Obama, half of America against Obama, fighting each other. Obama was the centerpiece. Man, that's the time to get going. When all eyes are off of you personally, that's when you got to make a move. That's why I made my move. I said it on this program pretty much the whole 10 years I was in school, is that this is the time we need to make a move when everybody's not looking at you. Most folks didn't, but that's okay. Then Trump became president, right? So now Trump is president. Now you got all these guys ragging on ethnicities and ragging against Trump. Although they were ragging on ethnicities, still the battle was simply verbal. It was between the political parties. It was between MSNBC, CNN, and Fox News. It was on that realm. It was more of a philosophical argument. At that time, so their eyes still weren't on you. Another 4 years, take care of your business. Don't get into the fray. Don't get into the mix. Let them do fight out. Let me tell you what is another strategy of China. What they would do is they recognized they were a weak nation compared to the United States and Russia. So what China would do is they would instigate conflict between Russia and the United States. What a strategy. So they wouldn't get in the mix. They would instigate that issue, and over here they'd be taking care of their business, okay? And using that same strategy, when this philosophical debates are going on, when Obama was president for 8 years, then when Trump was president for 4 years, all the eyes were off of the ethnicities. All the eyes were off of the black folks. This was the time not to be smoking weed, not to be drinking, not to be chilling, going out because it's Friday night. This is the time you need to buckle down and get yourself together. So when the dust clears, when that fray is over, when that combative challenge is over between them and they look back at you, you're not even still there because you've improved yourself right out of the influence, right out of the purview of their reach, okay? I guess many folks didn't do that. I was saying that during Trump as well. I'm saying it now. Now Trump is gone. We got Biden in there. Okay, so what's going on here? The pandemic. Man, pandemic was the perfect thing to get better because the pandemic was the great equalizer. The pandemic sidelined everybody. Sidelined businesses, sidelined people from their jobs. This was the time, another time, when everybody's focused on the pandemic, for you to figure out how you're going to make some money, how you're going to get educated. Schools were still open online. You could have gotten your degree. All the major schools are online now. MIT's online. All the colleges, Wright State's online. Sinclair College is online. See, there was a time people would be, ragging on folks that get online degrees. But these institutions have realized how many people are not going to attend their institutions, but they can still be taught online. And so they're all online now. Not only that, if you don't want to go to actual physical school online, paying, the tuition and all these schools have their college courses online. Now, you can't get college credit for it, but you can learn. Now, if I wasn't in the position because even before I went to school, I was going to MIT on YouTube. I was studying physics on YouTube. I got the whole curriculum out there. Every lecture, every class, the camera's just taking pictures. You're in the class. So while I was out there for all those years carrying mail, I got audio version of MIT physics classes that I was studying while I was walking through the hood in Dayton. I'm telling you. And so what you can do is, what I would do if I wasn't okay already, and I'm still learning, I'm still going to school, I'm still matriculating, what I would do is, I would take these courses on YouTube, just download them or listen to them on YouTube and be diligent about studying. And then when I know the material, then I'd go to school and take those courses for the degree, okay? That's what I would do. Pandemic, man, perfect time. You'll be going to school, man. While everybody's locked up in their houses, everybody's walking around wearing masks, not doing anything, all jacked up, arguing with each other about who's vaccinated, who's not. Man, be like China. While nobody's looking, take care of your business. So when the masks come off, and the doors open up, and the schools open up, and the business open up 100%, they look back at you, you're not there anymore. Because you've improved yourself right out of the purview of their influence. Man, so woke is. Whenever an opportunity that's out of the ordinary arises, sit down with a pencil and paper and figure out a game plan. If you're not happy with the situation of your life, fix it. It can be fixed. But you're going to have to, nobody's going to fix it for you. The truth will make you free, but it's going to be you that's have to do the work. Nobody's going to free you. And I think we owe this. We owe this to the generations that are coming before us. It's like even as black people in this nation, we look at the sacrifices of all those people, even from slave times, that came all the way over here and sacrificed, man. During slavery, it was the death penalty if you were caught learning how to read and how to write as a slave. But there were black parents that ensured even at the threat of death and execution, that they were going to ensure that the children had the break that they didn't have. They recognized how important education was. They recognized how important it was to be able to truly understand the words, truly understand the letter, truly understand the psyche of the folks who were oppressing them in order to get yourself out of that mess. That was a sacrifice. Even the civil rights movement. How many people were lynched? How many people, you know, were stolen from, were imprisoned, were mistreated and oppressed, simply paving the way for us today. But what have we done? We dropped the ball. I look at it almost like a relay race, you know, where the baton was passed generation to generation. Come to our generation, man, the generation behind us is holding that baton out and we just standing there. It's Friday night. I gotta go out. I need some Chevys. I need a joint. Come on, man. We got it jacked up. That's the issue I have with weed, actually, and alcohol and all the other things that actually deaden your brain. We need our brains to succeed ourselves right out of the mess we're in. Why in the world would we ingest something that's going to be counter to the thinking that we require? Okay? Well, it's just won't do a lot of it. So it's poison. Why do a little bit of it? Not now. Not while we're still behind enemy lines. Now, while we're still being oppressed. That's why I don't agree with that. I know about weed very well, and but it's not helpful given the situation that we're in. Now, if all society, we were all in the same place, nobody was mistreated, everybody on the same level, everything was cool, get a buzz. But not now. We're still at war. Okay. and what's unfortunate about this war is that it's an illusion. That we've allowed ourselves to be defeated by an illusion, or we've allowed ourselves to be oppressed by an illusion. It's like that elephant, you know, the circus element? The analogy where the circus elephant, you wonder why at a circus the elephant just stands there. Doesn't try to escape. Come on, as big as they are, what could prevent an elephant from escaping if it wanted to? Nothing. What can prevent the elephant from escaping? The elephant itself. What they do is they take this baby elephant, it's called a calf, they take the baby elephant when it's small and they tie it to a stake in the ground. A post with a big old rope. And it can't escape, can't get away, can't get away, can't get away, tries to get away, tries to get away. So it just grows up tied to that post. Finally, when it becomes an adult, they don't have to tie it to that post anymore because the elephant believes that it cannot escape. That's where it's supposed to be. It can't move. It will eat, sleep, crap right next to that post. He'll never escape. Because it was raised believing that that's where his assigned spot was. He can't leave. It's up here. It's in his mind. That's where we are today. Why would we still be oppressed in this nation after all these years? There have been too many opportunities. Now this isn't anti-us. This is like sometimes we do need some to be shaken. Sometimes we do need some insight, a reminder or a minder or something. But the reality is, man, the military was pretty much the first real institution that was desegregated. Still had some issues. And people found their ways out. My father was one of them. Born and raised in the Bronx. Joined the military at 17 years old, like I did. World War II. After World War II, Korean War. He got out. Korean War started. He got back in. And then he just stayed in. Man, he was like 46 or so, Vietnam War, 1965. He volunteered. He was one of the first Americans in Vietnam. The year we went to Vietnam, we got involved in 1965. My dad was there. He volunteered. Imagine that. He was a lifer. He ended up doing some 40 plus years, you know, as a civilian with the military as well in his military career. A man from the Bronx. We would go to the Bronx every year to visit his family. His friends, the ones he grew up with, they were either in prison, dead, or on drugs. Those were his peers, but he found a way to escape. Today, there's education. School, man, I was a mailman in West Dayton for like 27 years, walking. Dunbar High School, that was my area. Dunbar, MacArthur, Della, Randolph, Denison, Gwinnell, Angiers, Clement, that whole area. And it's Dunbar High School. And I would see as I'm walking, the route, I would see the school books that the students, the textbooks and papers just strewn about the streets where the kids just threw the books out there. So we have opportunities to be well, and we're blowing them. That's what school is about. Kids are high in school. Kids don't go to school. I have to admit, the examples that they have at home aren't that great, many of them as well. You're smoking weed, and your kid knows it, you're pretty much condemning them to a lackluster, unsuccessful life. And so we have many things. We have the military, we have school, but now the military, you can't even go in the military unless you've done well in school because the competition is greater. And so we're just condemning ourselves, man. I remember when I was delivering mail, I was on West Street off of Germantown. My son had graduated Chaminade way back when, around 2000, I don't know, 8 or something, 2008 or so. And there was a boy, a young man on my route that was in school with my son at Chaminade. Now by this time, my son was at UC, had been there about 3 years. And he's got a mission, he's got a goal, he's got a future ahead of him. But there was this boy that my son was in school with. He was on the mail route. I came up to him. He's sitting on his mama's porch with his pants halfway down his behind, smoking a joint. I guess calling it a blunt. And I wanted to say to him, hey, my son, Martin, he's at UC. But in my mind, I didn't want to hurt this guy's feelings. This is 3 years had elapsed since they graduated high school. My son's about to graduate from college. This kid is doing the same thing he was doing back when he knew my son when he was in high school. I don't want to hurt his feelings. I didn't even mention it. I just kept on walking. See, the institution is not what's killing us. The institution is not what's oppressing us. We are being oppressed by that stake that was in the ground that has convinced us that who we are is not who we really are, but has convinced us that this is who we are. Crime. As much as we want to be talking about the new Jim Crow and the prison system and all that, they wouldn't be able to function that new Jim Crow if we were not breaking laws. See, back in the day, in the Jim Crow days, back in the days when the slaves were released, were emancipated, they had laws, that you might be emancipated, but if you're in my town and you don't have a job, you go to prison because you can't loiter in my town. Well, guess what? Those folks that own the businesses wouldn't hire the black people, and so the black people were arrested, put in prison, and now they got chain gangs. Now they got free. They got slave labor that are working, doing the work of slaves, okay? So you had prisons full of black folks who hadn't done anything wrong. They just couldn't find a job because the white folks weren't hiring them, and because of the new laws now on the books that if you don't have a job, you go to jail, they were just taking those newly freed slaves, black folks, freemen, throwing them in jail. So now we have an environment today where a lot of black folks are in jail, but they're not being thrown in jail for not doing anything. They're being thrown in jail for committing crimes. And so now we're complaining because black folks are being put in prison, and doing more time than white folks who are committing the same crimes and getting sentences, okay? And that's a valid argument. But I'm suggesting two things. One thing, that doesn't mean you need to be letting more black folks out of prison. That means you just need to be putting more white folks in prison. And the black folks, we need to stop doing these things, committing these crimes, doing the things that are illegal, that are allowing them to control our lives, to oppress us. Man, when you break a law, you have just given the authorities carte blanche authority to abuse you however they want to. Stop doing that. I've been there. I was the guy 40 years ago maybe, driving around, police officer behind me, I'm wondering if there's a warrant. I was that guy. I haven't been that guy in all those years. You have to stop. Because you are giving them the power. They have no power. There's no power in the institutions. There's no power in any of them except the power that you give them by not doing the things you need to do to improve your life. That's what woke is. For real. Here we go with another mailman analogy. So I'm like a dog expert. I even have a dog, believe it or not. Most male men have dogs. Isn't that strange? I got a big old dog. So I'm like a dog expert. I mean, my dog obeys me. He doesn't obey my wife and my daughter hardly. because I create discipline. Because I understand dogs. Because I've been a mailman for so many years. Anyway. So you got dogs. Most dogs, when they're barking at you, all that, they're barking because they're afraid of you. That's why they're barking. When you walk up to a house and the dog starts going crazy barking, usually they're afraid of you. I'm not saying all dogs now, because I've had to fight some pit bulls and I've fought some Rottweilers. But most dogs, when they're barking because they're afraid. Okay? So you got a lot of afraid white folks out here in this community, in our nation. They're afraid because they don't know. They think they have to be afraid. Maybe some of that guilt, some of the unresolved guilt, sometimes that might bring some negative emotions, But there is a fear of the black man. My daughter, she goes to one of the best schools, probably the best school in the region. And she looks good, dresses nice. So my wife's birthday was recently, and she's up at Macy's, and I think that's in Centerville. And she calls me at work to say, hey, Dad, you've been in Macy's in the men's department? Where's the bathroom? Because I'm asking this lady here, but she's just acting real funny. So my daughter is dressed nice. She had just come from a leadership conference at some STEM school over on Woodman. She was selected out of students from different schools were selected, a few students from each school. She was one of them. She was at a leadership conference for young people at a STEM school. And after they were done, she went to Macy's. So she's dressed nice, looking good, and she's smart and speaks well. And she went to Macy's, and she's getting a hard time from the workers there, the white workers. So why is that? So we have to impress upon our kids that they're responding to you because, first of all, you have a pocket full of money or you have a credit card, and they just work there. Now you're speaking well. See, because when you don't fit their prejudice, when you don't fit the profile of what they expect you to be like, they don't know how to respond. That's why Obama messed them up so bad. Because whatever they wanted to justify in their minds how black folks were, this was a man standing in their face that ended up being the leader of the most powerful nation on this planet for 2 terms, undefeated, well-spoken, well-articulate, looking good, family man, good guy, was not an embarrassment for our country in the presence of other nations, had proper strategy, took out Osama bin Laden. I mean, this was the man. He was cool. Plus, he could make a 3-pointer for real. So, I mean, this was the guy. So when they see, because when you're in their face, and you are everything that they have claimed that you were not, they got nothing left. That's why they lost their minds when Obama won. Because their whole myth of superiority went right out. They had nothing left. But I'm just saying, when you have destroyed the fake image that they have of you in their minds, they got nothing else. That's why they're yelling. That's why they're calling names. That's why they're going through all this stuff. Just like that dog that has no teeth, that dog that's afraid is going to bark the loudest. We have to recognize that. Stop giving them what they want. Stop putting ourselves in such a vulnerable position. Clean your act up. I've cleaned my act up. And I'm not arrogant. I'm not putting myself out there like, look what I did. I am giving you an example. 28 years old, I just woke up one day and realized, man, this life, I'm not doing right. Man, I changed overnight. You have to. And now I'm well, very well. But that was the beginning, was the decision that had to be made that this is not the way life is supposed to be. And this is what we need to do as individuals. We're not able to get together as a group because I've shared, I was trying to share the other day on social media how we need to stop smoking weed, stop drinking alcohol, exercise, eat right, get educated, get armed legally. I don't think I mentioned that day. But this old brother came on like, no, we just need to pack up and move to Ghana, move back to the motherland where we're free. I mean, so you're going to always have that when you're trying to do something in mass. So the reality is each individual just has to recognize that their life isn't what it should be. And not just for them, for the children who are looking at you, the influence that you're going to be in their lives. You are influenced probably by someone else's life. But anyway, so I was looking into that Ghana thing, because I'm sure many of you have heard that. Go back to Africa, go back to the motherland. Ghana's offering 500 acres to Americans that will relocate, blah, blah, blah. So I did a little checking on that. Look, 500 acres, they estimate, might house 1,500 families. Think about that. Think about how many black people are in America. 1,500 families. That's not going to do anything, okay? Plus, I'm looking at the people who've actually relocated. They're all college professionals, and most of them are teaching in Ghana. So that doesn't have anything to do with the masses of black people. Actually, it doesn't have anything to do with the demographic of black people that are suffering in this nation. It's a fake pipe dream. Then I'm looking at the economic condition, the conditions in Ghana. 50% of the nation in most areas is unemployed. They're unemployed. The rivers are drying up. The fish are dying. The forests are dying. Ghana's a mess. That's why no nation's going to be extending this, their hand out there for you to come to their nation unless they had a vested interest in that. There is nothing in Ghana, nothing to moving in Africa for the masses of black people who are actually the demographic that are suffering in this nation. Nobody's going to help you. And really, as I'm looking at certain groups are trying to get folks together to form communities, that sounded a whole lot like Jim Jones in Guyana back in the 70s. So now don't fall for that mess. Nobody cares about you like you do. And when you got folks out there opening with an extended hand trying to help you, trust me, they have an agenda. And it's probably a financial interest in you joining, their little foray. Anyway, handle your business. You can take care of yourself. You can dig yourself out of yourself. I gave this analogy on Facebook the other day, and I made it up. I think I did. But if you Google it, probably 100 other people came up with the same idea. But if you're in a hole, say a 20-foot hole with a 10-foot circumference around you, and all that you have next to you is a shovel, how are you going to get out? Because that's basically the situation we're in today. We're in a big hole as black people in America. Each of us really as a whole, but as individuals, okay? But so you're individual in that hole. How are you going to get out? You're going to take that shovel and you're going to dig on the side of the wall of the hole and put it under your feet and then step on it. Dig some more, put it on top of that and step on it. And it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be quick. But if you're diligent and you don't give up, eventually you're going to dig and step your way right out of that hole. It's up to you. Think about it. Well, anyway, I guess we've talked about everything. We talked about China. We've talked about us. We talked about white folks. We talked about dogs. We talked about everything. I know I gave you a lot. All right. I just hope it's coherent. And I do want to thank you for listening. And I want to invite you to listen again. You take care. Bye.